This is going to be an awesome presentation on how to actually take your engineering career and get into robotics as fast as possible using your background. So yeah, let's just hop right into it. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. Let's go ahead and open up the presentation. Cool. So today we are going to be talking through the robotics career roadmap. So we've got this method that I've been refining and testing for the last couple of years now, working with engineers in core disciplines, get into robotics quickly, efficiently, without needing to go back to school, without needing 700 certificates. It's just, this is the process. But I want to be really clear with who this is specifically for, because the people that are in this category, they're going to get the best results. So this is for you if you're an engineer, you've got a strong background in at least one discipline, so mechanical, electrical, software, systems. Traditionally, you went to like a 4-year engineering school, you did your degree, you're confident in the fundamentals, you're good at what you do already, you're not a beginner. Like if you need to do something in engineering, you can pretty much handle it. The one caveat to this, though, is you don't have to be good at everything. This is something that comes up with a lot of people, especially engineers, where they're like, yeah, I just did my degree in mechanical, but I'm really not that good of an engineer because I'm not an electrical. That's not the case. If you have one discipline that you're really good at, like mechanical, electrical, software, systems, like one discipline, and you are really good at it, you don't have to be good at everything. Having specificity and being within a niche is experience, and having experience within that niche is good. You don't need to be like a jack of all trades. You just need to have core competencies, and you also need a track record of success professionally. So this could be internships, this could be co-ops, this could be doing a lot of research, this could be projects. Meaning, in addition to the theories that you learned in engineering school, you also have tangible examples of demonstrated competencies within the engineering world. And you can reference those specific examples. They're either projects you've done, teams you've been on, things you've contributed to, and you're confident communicating that technically. The other piece is you are stuck at the mid-level. So this is not for somebody that's an early career professional. This is for somebody that's been in engineering for quite a bit. You've maybe made a couple of moves. Maybe you moved into new roles that you thought were going to actually propel your career forward, but it just seems more like a lateral move, and you just can't seem to get out of, engineering job to engineering job to engineering job. And you want to get, maybe that mid-level or senior engineer, or maybe you want to take your engineering skills and move them more into strategy and get into projects, get into product, get into, maybe more junior level director, senior level director, depending on where you're at. And so this is going to help you get past that. And you're also eager and ready to do something about it. So I talk to a lot of engineers, and there's this like common thread between most, like the average engineer versus somebody that this really works well for, is the average engineer, they're okay with what they've got. Like there's no motivation to make any sort of move. There's no real, like, they're like quote unquote happy with what they're making financially, and like they don't have to make a change, like they don't really want to make a change. And so like if you're not eager and you're not ready to do something about your career, then obviously this method isn't going to work, because you actually need to do it, and it's designed to be done in a short amount of time. And so for those of you that are ready to actually maximize your energy and your effort, and you're tired of being mediocre, then this methodology works gangbusters. And then speed matters. So there's a lot of times in engineering school, kind of early level in your career, you're just so focused on yourself and spending the time and energy to actually get good at things. When you're in the middle to like higher level of your career, you need to start being more efficient with the choices that you make. And so speed and efficiencies actually matter. And so when we play this game, we are playing a game of strategy. And the philosophy is, why wait 2 years if you can just take what you have, all the experiences you have, leverage and stack the cards in your favor and actually get the career that you want relatively quickly with like minimal interruptions or impact to your actual day to day. And that brings up being also interested in strategy. So a lot of times we just work through things linearly and we don't actually think about like, okay, is the decision I'm making today, how is that going to impact my career, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road? And when you're in that mid-level, you need to be cognizant of the decisions you're making, and you need to have some sort of strategy or framework that you can use to make those decisions and not just execute blindly. Because if you think that executing or just doing things day in and day out linearly without a strategy is going to actually get you to where you want to go, you're probably going to waste years of your time trying to actually figure that out. And you may not end up where you actually want to go anyways, because you didn't have a roadmap to get you there. And you also need to be willing to do the inner work to reverse engineer your success. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about is coming from a place of strategy. It's coming from a holistic level. It's not coming from the tactical technician level. And so like if you're looking for, the tangible, widget making, we're not really going to be talking about widget making in this training. We're sitting at the holistic strategic level. Like what is the strategy and why do we need a strategy for this? And also just some context around the results that this strategy can get you. All right. And if you're not willing to kind of think through your strategy, then this isn't going to be for you. But if you do match all of this and you agree that at this point in your career, you do need to have kind of a framework or decision-making tool or a methodology to get your career to where you want it to be, and you're ready to do that, then this is going to help you so much. And why this matters. All right, so Elon Musk, everybody knows who he is, and this is his original 2006 master plan for Tesla. And he came into Tesla with this plan in 2006, and then like 10 years later in 2016, he talked about how he pretty much did and executed that plan. And as we think about the history of Tesla and everything that company has gone through, you can start to see the evolution of the company as it relates to the original plan. And so this is a really interesting example, because you take somebody like Elon Musk, who is a very phenomenal engineer with the technical background and the inner workings, and he understands down to the granular level of what needs to be done, but he's also has a strategy. So he's not just like blindly going through and just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks. He created this strategy, and what he is doing technically matches and aligns with the actual strategy. And so my encouragement to you is to take this strategy and use it and create it and then execute against it. Because if you're just, like I said, going linearly and executing things, thinking you're going to actually get to where you want to go, the odds of that happening are pretty slim, because it wasn't well defined in the beginning. And when I work with engineers on this in their career, this is usually the problem. It's not usually the tech. It's not usually they don't know how to code. It's not usually some, theory that they don't understand. It's not usually, a certain type of platform or robotic system that they've never worked with. That's never usually the problem. The problem is they're not really clear on what they're trying to accomplish in their career. And so this framework will help you with that. And so my goal is to just show you the framework. We're going to talk through it. And then towards the end, I'll give you a couple of ideas on how you can actually go about and implement this. Okay. So let's hop into it. We've got the STAR method here. We're going to just go through each one of these directly. And then you can grab a pen and paper and take some notes here. This is going to help you start to think through where you want to start to shift your career. My goal is to help you. Like if we were to look at your career as like a growth trajectory, let's say that here is like the beginning of your career, and here is where you're at right now, the middle part of your career, the mid-level type engineer. and you're trying to get up here into the robotics career, into the robotics industry, where you're actually excited about the work that you're doing, you're getting paid the money you want to get paid, you have a lifestyle that you're happy with. You're not just, blindly going through your day and just checking boxes and you're miserable, because there are a lot of engineers that I've talked to that they make great money, but they actually hate what they're doing. And so a lot of the work that we can do is build a strategy around the things that you want and just start to eliminate all the things that just aren't serving you anymore. So to get from this mid-level role where you're kind of like everything is like basically just mediocre. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. To a role where you're actually happy and you're making the kind of money you want to be making, and your growth opportunities are a lot higher, you're doing things that are more challenging and maybe more fulfilling. This method is going to help you with that. So the very first thing that you need to do is you need to have a self strategy. So when I say self strategy, this is literally you need to figure out everything you've done in your career from, let's say, high school, because if you're an academic like me, you're going to have your National Honor Society, you're going to have your valedictorian awards, you're going to have, scholarships or groups or things that really propelled you into college. So you've got your high school, what did you do during college or university, or engineering school, whichever one you went to. What were you known for there? What were your projects? Like I had 2 key projects, one of which I worked in Australia. I did a lot of work in solar, way before solar was as popular as it is now. And then I also did a project on self-driving vehicles, again, way before self-driving vehicles were even a thing. And so you want to start to think through like your history. So like the self strategy is a combination of your history and your goals. So it's really just a reflection. So we've got like, let me make this more of a timeline here just to give you kind of a real understanding of what I'm talking about here. So you've got your history, which is the past. You've got where you are today. So this is today. And then you've got the goals that you have for the future. So you've got your past, you've got your present, which is today, and then you've got your future. So you really want to be thinking about this linearly, like on a timeline. So then you've got your university experience, then you've got maybe job or career number 1. Maybe if you've shifted or you've gotten promoted, maybe you've got job number 2. And then however many jobs, we'll just say however many jobs to today. Okay, so you really want to start to think about like what got you to this point in time and what were some of the key qualities or key things that you've accomplished or specific accomplishments throughout this process. And then what you want to start to think about is what do you want? So now that you've kind of done this mental activity of like, okay, what are all the things that I've done? You're going to realize, whoa, I did a lot of things and I forgot I did all these things. And then you're going to start to be able to figure out, okay, so you have this list of things that you've done. Of the things that you've done, what were the things that you really liked? Yes. Or what were things that you didn't like at all? And you're going to start to see patterns. Okay. And this is going to drive the question of what do you want? So what do you want over the next 3 months? What do you want over the next 3 years? Like, where do you fit in the grand scheme of anything that could be out there? And this is an interesting activity because people forget, and a lot of times engineers, we're just so focused on the 1 or 2 responsibilities we have as an engineer that we forget that you could literally do anything. You can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. So at this stage of the game, you want to figure out what do you actually want to do. And this comes down to what do you want to be responsible for on a career side? Like, what do you want to wake up and be held accountable for in your job? Like, what do you want to be the go-to for? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? Are you the type of person that wants to go into an office, wants to be in a nice building, wants to be in a startup culture, wants to be remote? Like, you really need to start thinking through, like, what does this look like? What does growth mean to you? So like, as you're making this move from here to here, this is where you start to see that exponential growth, where it starts to get like the hockey stick starts to kind of peak up, well, what does this mean for you in terms of like money, in terms of like your job title, in terms of like what you're known for, like your reputation? What does that actually look like? Finances, like, do you have a family? Do you have a significant other? Do you travel a lot? Do you take vacations? Like, what are your kind of beliefs and philosophies around this next stage of the game? And usually when I work with people, they're coming to me right here, like sort of on the cusp of this growth. And there's just a couple of beliefs and philosophies that they have to get past to get to that next level. Because when you're an engineer and you're contributing either individually to projects or you are running a team, leading a team, you're very siloed into either your individual responsibilities or the team's responsibilities. And as you start to advance your career, you need to start thinking bigger picture. Like, what is this organization I'm working for? What do they believe in? Are their beliefs congruent with my beliefs? Do we have similar philosophies? Like, how do I make good decisions? And so this is what needs to happen at this stage in the self strategy. And a good activity that you can do is you can write down all of the skills that you are excellent at. Like you are like if you were to get a grade on it or your boss were to give you a review, you're getting like A plus. Like this is your wheelhouse. This is exactly the things that you're good at. And then there's this question of where do you draw the line? And this line can be drawn on either things you're not good at, and it should be, you should be drawing the line at things you're not good at. So you're not good at, like, or you're bad at. So not good at. And this might come to unpopular belief, but the people over here know where their line is. Like they're very clear with what their boundary is on, yeah, that's not actually me. This is me. And being very definitive on what that line is. So what you're not good at / what you're not interested in. So you could be good at something, but if you're not interested in it, or you don't think you can provide the most value on that topic, then you declare that and you stand confident in that answer. Because if you're trying to do something for everybody and you're trying to be the engineer that can do every little thing, then it's very confusing where you fit in up here, because there's not really like leadership levels or higher level robotics roles or working at these like innovative companies or startups. There's not infinite number of roles. So you need to be very clear on what it is you can bring to the table and what it is you're not going to bring to the table, because either that's not your area of expertise, or it's not something that you really want to be contributing to anymore, right? And you're allowed to make these decisions as you grow. So hopefully this makes sense. The first step is the self strategy, and you're going to need to take some time to do this. Only you can do this. When I work with mentorship clients, we spend a lot of time in this stage because it's super important to be very clear on this, like what you want, what you don't want, because it's just as important to know what you don't want as it is to know what you want, and vice versa. Like they're synergistic. So let's go ahead and clear out the drawings. Let me get back to here, and let's talk about this second piece. So we're going to be looking at targeted search. So the T in STAR method is targeted search. And the reason why it's targeted search and it isn't job search, like everybody talks about, like, oh, I just got to go search for a job. Okay, cool. What does that actually mean? We want to be very targeted, meaning we want to have focus. Okay. So once you've done this activity in self-strategy and you know where you draw the line and you know what you're good at, then you're going to know exactly who you are and what you want. So then you're only going to be looking for jobs that fit that qualification. So they're going to fit the skills that you have that you're good at technically. And this is why it's so important that you already have a strong engineering background, because if you're bringing that to the table, then opportunities start to open up, and then you match this with a targeted search, you're going to become leveraged. And leverage means that you're going to be coming in, if you find a focused role in robotics that you're actually excited about with a company that has the same beliefs as you, it's going to be so easy to package your skills in a way that you're able to show up and on paper, like, this is you. And this is the company. And guess what? They look the same. And so then when you're talking to the company, and really, if you think about this, you're not talking to the company, you're talking to another person that has shared beliefs and philosophies as you. And if you can recognize that you have your strategy and you actually are bringing competencies to the table with a strong opinion that's based on reality, like you have something educated to say, and you're able to get to a point where you can communicate that, what you can do is you can package your skills in a way that you look exactly like the company already. And the conversation is so easy to have because you're coming from a place of knowing what you want on a shared belief system. You have this kind of framework or decision-making process, and it's congruent. And there's this common like philosophy around like you can tell if somebody's interested in the right spot just like intuitively. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with somebody where you're like, I think something's like kind of off, versus somebody where you talk to them, you're like, wow, this person's awesome. It's like a natural agreement. It just like somehow works. And that is because of congruency. So when you find these roles and they're focused and they match you and what you're looking for in your belief system and the company and what they're looking for in their belief system, what ends up happening is you significantly accelerate the process of them wanting to talk to you, because like attracts like, it intuitively makes sense. You're filling a need that they have and they're looking for somebody like you. So this just makes the process so much faster. And I can give you a quick example here. So one of the clients I was working with, she came in and into the program with me, and she had just submitted like 120 resumes. So she had sort of done the self strategy, but not like formally. A lot of times we wanted to skip to sending our resume out. Like if you're in this position, just like her. So let me just write it up here. So she did 120 resumes and she got 0 callbacks. 0. So what she did was she just put her resume out there on those job boards like Indeed or whatever. And she had her resume and she just said, okay, cool, I'm interested in these jobs. Let me apply for them. She got nobody called her back. Nothing. And the crazy part is she has an engineering degree. She has 7 years of experience. She's working in a corporation. Like she's got a Fortune 100 job, and nobody called her back. And the reason is because when you just blindly throw something at the wall, you're hoping something sticks, but hope isn't really a strategy. You can't just throw things out there and let's pray that somebody picks me. No, you want to be intentional with this. So what we did is we regrouped. We spent some time building out her self strategy, and then we took the targeted search approach. Okay, so finding roles that match, like these two things are congruent. And what she did was she applied for one job, one targeted job. And guess what? She got a phone interview in 10 days. That was after failing 120 times, blindly throwing stuff into the universe. It's like there's this concept, and hopefully you've heard of it, where it's like you get what you ask for. It's like the sixth sense kind of thing, where it's like intuition, or it's maybe more ethereal, and it's like you get exactly what you ask for. So if you're telling the universe that you don't really care what you want, and you're just going to blindly throw out your resumes to these robotics jobs because you think you deserve it, the universe is going to be like, well, you didn't really care about these opportunities, and who knows if it's congruent. Whereas if you spend some energy and effort finding the right fit and having the exact match, there's this like weird sixth sense in the universe where like people will find you. And maybe that sounds intangible or it sounds like woo woo, but there's like some legitimacy to this, because as soon as she worked with me and we did this, she was like, whoa. And so when you connect with somebody that matches with you, you have a higher chance of getting through the process because you're legitimately what they're looking for. So I would encourage you, if you're somebody that has in this state where you've done like hundreds of dozens of resumes and you're just blindly throwing them into the ethers, spend some time figuring out what you actually want and do a targeted search. And if you need help with that, there's going to be a link in the description. If you want to work with me directly, it's not cheap, but I guarantee you it will pay for itself for the rest of your career and just the way you think through this process, opening up different opportunities that maybe you never thought you would even be able to. So let's keep going. Targeted search. The next one is A, assets. So I did mention assets a little while ago with the 120 resumes. You notice the resume didn't come into the picture until the third thing on the list. So once you have the focus for where you're going after, so you've figured out the companies, the philosophies, what you stand for, what you believe in, what you can bring to the table, where your line is, that's when you're going to start to create the assets. And so these assets, they come in many forms. You've got your resume. We have a very specific process we use. So like when you work with me, or if you decide you want to work with me to do this, it's not a resume template, it's a resume process. And we go through this process so that the resume matches, so the packaging that the company is looking for. So if the company, is looking for X, Y, and Z, we package your resume in a way that X, Y, and Z that the company's looking for is very obvious without being like, I'm just going to copy the job description and put on my resume. We don't do that. We polish it and we package your skill set in a way that you're speaking the same language. The other piece is we do cover letters. What makes a good cover letter? What needs to be in a cover letter? Should you have a cover letter? We build that out. LinkedIn. We do an update on your LinkedIn. So a lot of times people don't keep this updated, or they have a LinkedIn, but it's very vague. Like specificity really matters in assets, and specificity. So specificity. It matters because it needs to match. Because if you're specific about the wrong things, and you're not cognizant of this whole strategy, then you could potentially be focusing on the wrong things. And a lot of times professionals, engineers, they'll come to me and they'll say, well, I don't know this like language, or I don't know this software, or I don't know this tool. And I ask them, well, why do you need that tool? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I just think I need it. And it's like, okay, so why would you spend the energy learning that specific tool if you don't actually know if it's going to bring value to where you're trying to go? And this is why we do this reverse engineering process, and we have a framework, because everything you should be tactically doing should align with the master plan, just like we talked about with Elon Musk. He's not doing anything that doesn't match the plan. And you've got to be really clear on what that plan is before you just blindly go through the process. And then lastly, what we'll do with the assets is you're going to have this personal brand that I should even say, like, it's going to match professionally as well. So personal, professional brand, like you really want to at the stage of growth where you're trying to go from mid to, like senior engineer or higher level engineer working in robotics, like with a specialty, from kind of like generalist, average, mediocre to specialist, the go-to, the person that is providing expert level opinions. Your professional brand and your personal brand, they also need to be congruent. So like you need to be who you say you are. And this can be challenging, again, if you're confused. Like if you don't actually know what you want and what you stand for and where you draw the line on things, then it's hard to communicate your actual brand, and how you package that up when you're going through an interviewing process, when you're networking, and when you're presenting. So we spend a lot of time here trying to figure out, okay, well, what is going to be the most authentic to you, and how can we go ahead and communicate that effectively? And these are all things too that it's super silly. Let me clear this. Nobody ever taught me in engineering school. I didn't learn any of this until I was in the leadership program and until I was actually working around people who thought strategically versus who thought more tactically or technically. I've noticed the people that excel the most in engineering and get into robotics and are part of like these high tech futuristic roles, they do both. And they're able to take a step back and see the broader picture, but they're also able to get their hands dirty, open up the code, find things, fix things, the works, and they're able to do this across the spectrum of different types of people that they work with. And if that's something that you care about and you want to get better at your craft and you want to be the go-to person for things, but you're just not there from a growth standpoint, we can work together and fix that. A lot of times it's just repetition and getting good at knowing what you want and being able to communicate it. Communication skills in engineering school, not the greatest. I mean, I went to a school that was very project based, but even still, like your communication skills tend to take a back line to engineering school because you're so focused on getting good at the foundations. And if you have that foundation, and what's really missing is your strategy and your plan, that's something we certainly could work on together. And then finally, the R in STAR is review. So review is, how do we get you ready for these interviews? And I'll even put in here another good R word is ready, because you have to be in a place where you're mentally ready to do this and you're mentally ready to change. If you're just happy go lucky, like whatever, like I'll just let fate, determine where I'm going, then this is like, if you're trying to run your career growth strategy off of fate, good luck. I think from my standpoint, there's a clear path to do this, right? So you're in your engineering job today, and maybe you're just feeling like blah, and there's a robotics job that's going to get you, the more exciting work, potentially more money, depending on where you're at and where in the hierarchy or the org chart you fall. And you're just looking to become better. I see a lot of engineers, they're like here and they're like, they don't really want to do anything because they're content with the amount of money they're making. Contentment is a symptom of decline. So if you're just content with just staying where you are, well, guess what? You're going to stay where you are. If you're happy with what you have and you're not motivated to do any better, then you're going to fall into this contentment and you're going to be stuck exactly where you're at. So I would encourage you to think through, like, if you're in this box right here and you're just like, yeah, no, I'm kind of happy with where I'm at, I'm just going to mull over some ideas, maybe I'll make the move. I would encourage you to walk through this activity yourself and see, like, am I the type of person that wants high growth? Because if you want high growth, you have to do the things that high growth people do. They don't just sit still. And you've got to also think about, is it worth staying in a role where you're just like blah? Do you want to spend, your corporate career or your professional career working in a place where you're just like, I guess it's good, I get paid every couple weeks, whatever? Or do you actually want to be contributing something meaningful and valuable to the company you're at, providing that kind of expert level opinion from a technical standpoint? So what we do is we prepare you for interviews. So a lot of times we're packaging up your brand and your skills and your assets, but then a lot of this is getting you ready to communicate, like, how you're going to provide value to companies. What is that role that you're actually applying for? Where does it fit into the grand scheme of the organization, and the context of that role? So what are you going to be responsible for? And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes there are maybe 1 to 2 gaps in skills that you need to bring to the table. In addition to, the laundry list of certs and degrees and things that you've done in your career, it's possible that there's maybe 1 or 2 areas, whether it's domain knowledge, like understanding the industry. Like, let's say you're working in aerospace, but now you're going to be moving over to healthcare or automotive. Sometimes it's domain. I would say more often than not, it's domain. And sometimes it's actual tactical skills, depending on the role that you're in. Maybe you need to learn, a new language, or maybe you need to learn a new software. And, like, to be honest with you, this is easy. Like, these are easy things to pick up. There's a lot of ways that you can get these skills really fast. What the challenge is figuring out what these skills are. So how do you know if you actually need to spend the time and energy to learn something until you know you're going to be using it to provide value in the role that you're moving to? And so I always tell people to hold off on more tactical, technical training until you're really clear on how you're going to present yourself to the company in the interview, and be prepared. If it's domain knowledge, then obviously reading more about that industry and having an opinion about it is helpful, but that doesn't mean you need to go take a 12-week workshop on that particular industry, or that particular software. And that's pretty much the process. So let me go ahead and clear all this. This is the STAR method here, and what I'd like to do, let me zoom out here a little bit. Here's the STAR method. So self-strategy, targeted search, assets, review. And that's pretty much what we do in my mentorship program. We work on this together, work directly with all my clients, and we build this out. Historically, we've worked together for 12 weeks. More recently, we're getting people into interviews in like 2 weeks. So if you're coming in and you've got, the strong background, and you kind of fit in that bubble of the middle, that Wild West middle where, everybody, on the career growth trajectory, it's like, if this is the robotics role that you're targeting, and you're not a beginner, so you're not starting at the beginner level, but you're kind of in this area and you're trying to get up here, mid-level engineer, good at what you do, any sector of the market. So aerospace, automotive, healthcare, solar, energy, pretty much seen it all. So I came from aerospace, worked on commercial, military, engines, aircrafts, components, electronics. So totally cool. Any discipline, mechanical, electrical, software systems, you're already good at what you do. You're really confident, from an engineering standpoint, like you're getting paid as an engineer, and you're confident that the company that's paying you, they're getting a good deal because you're providing value to them in your job, and you're a good performer in that regard. But you're looking for your kind of your next move, your strategic move. And you don't want to go back and get a degree. You don't think you need a degree because you've been doing this for a while. So making the move into robotics, working in something high tech, working at a startup, working at a Fortune 500 company, that's really what you're trying to move for, and get into a role where you're going to be happier and more successful with a longer term growth strategy. Then this opportunity is for you. This strategy will work for you. And there's kind of two things you can do from here. You can go ahead and take this methodology and you can go map it out and go do it. Or I have a mentorship program. You can work directly with me and we'll work on this together, and you'll just move a whole heck of a lot faster. So instead of this taking, 3 years for you to figure out, this will take, as little as 3 months. And you can make that career move into the robotics industry as fast as I've seen possible. And like I said, more recently, one of my clients, she had just thrown out 120 resumes and nobody called her back. Then we worked together a couple weeks. She got her first call back. And that role actually matches a lot of what she's looking for in terms of responsibilities, lifestyle, growth, finances. So if that's you and you would like my help, there's going to be a link in the description below. Go ahead and watch that training. It's a bonus training that I put together. And if you think it makes sense for us to work together, there's going to be instructions on that page for how to apply to work with me. I run a tight calendar, so if you're not convinced that I'm the person that can help you get your career in robotics, that's okay. Go ahead and watch these videos. They're going to be somewhere around the screen, and I'll see you soon.